Welcome back to Shaping What's Next at Cooper. And you're probably expecting Len from our Talent Brilliant team. But for this special episode, you get me. My name is Kiri. I'm based in Copenhagen and I represent our Empower Employee Resource Group to kick off our Women's History Month. So in honor of this great celebration and this year's theme, which is leading the change, we're celebrating the impact of the women who move our culture and our business forward every day, often in ways that aren't always visible. And I'm joined by someone who helped shape the experience of every Cooper employee, our Senior Vice President of HR Business Partners, Cindy E. Cindy, we're so glad to have you here today.
It's wonderful to be here, Carrie. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. So before we talk about leadership and impact, let's start with your story. So could you tell us a little bit more about what experiences has really shaped your journey into HR leadership and into the leader that you are today?
Yeah, so my path into HR and just HR leadership, to be honest, it wasn't shaped by a single moment, but honestly, rather just a series of experiences that I had. Early in my career, I would say I had some incredible leaders who believed performance and people weren't separate conversations, that, when people felt connected, supported, when they felt challenged, the business honestly just performs better. And I've also had, leaders who had unclear expectations or overlooked talent, and that can hold both individuals and organizations back.
I love that. Thank you so much. So this year's theme is leading the change. And from your perspective, what does that look like, especially within a people and culture function?
For HR, I think leading the change means moving beyond running programs to really shaping how the organization evolves. It's about anticipating, how work and the workforce are changing. It's about helping leaders adapt. It's about helping ensuring our systems reflect our values. And it's also just kind of, I think, means asking those hard questions about how decisions affect people and our talent and perspectives. And I think at its best, HR helps design the environment that great leaders can flourish and where great work can happen.
That's really great. I really appreciate that. So one of the things that we're spotlighting in this month is the idea of an unsung hero, the builders, the mentors, the problem solvers, whose impact isn't always visible. And why is it important to really recognize those contributions?
I think every organization is shaped by people whose impacts honestly just isn't always visible, right? We're talking about the mentors, the problem solvers, the team builders who strengthen the culture every day. And I think recognizing those contributions matters because it broadens our definition of what impact means. And so leadership, you and I know, Kiri, leadership doesn't always come from titles or visibility. And so I think when we celebrate, the collaboration, the mentorship, the quiet leadership, we just reinforce the behaviors that make organizations great.
I really agree with that. Cindy, could you complete this sentence for me? So one thing people don't always see about your role is ...
One thing that people don't always see about my role is that oftentimes I am the person who provides clarity and transparency. I don't think I've ever come across anybody in life who doesn't want those two things. And so I think what I provide is, to employees and to leaders is that the clarity and transparency that they want and that they need. And sometimes it helps validate a decision that was made. Other times it leads to a very difficult but honest conversation that perhaps no one else was willing to have with them.
So one of our most powerful parts of this campaign is to really recognize others. So could you maybe tell us about who might be an unsung hero in your life? That could be either at Cooper or maybe in your personal life. And what makes that person's impact so meaningful to you?
Yeah, unsung heroine, honestly, I will always say first is my mother, my mom. Um, oh my gosh, she always has like the best one-liners if you need a little piece of advice. And my parents really, they have the classic immigrant experience, and so much of I think so much of their view on life and what they taught me was shaped by that. And whenever I was feeling, down, felt like giving up, or just thought that I couldn't get through a tough moment, I remember my mom saying something to the effect of, ask yourself, why can't I endure this? And more often than not, you'll be embarrassed to answer it. And I think honestly, the takeaway from that, it sounds kind of harsh, is, you know, I think you're stronger than you realize, and oftentimes your head just gets in the way. So oftentimes I will find myself just asking that question, and I'm like, oh, you know what? Yeah, I can get through this. Why can't I? And so that is something that I will always credit to my mother.
I really, really like that. And I think that's something that also really transpires within your work and in your personal life too. So that's really cool. So just as a follow-up, what is something that you wished you've known early in your career about using your voice and maybe making your impact felt?
Um, I think one thing that I wish I had known earlier was the importance of thoughtful courage. And I think what I mean by that is, being willing to ask the question honestly that others may hesitate to ask if it improves the conversation. And so earlier in my career, I sometimes assumed influence came with seniority, right? It came with your title. And over time, obviously, we know your voice doesn't have to be the loudest in the room to make an impact. But I think learned also that oftentimes your perspective and preparation matters just as much. So having that thoughtful courage when participating in conversations is really important.
I really like that sentence of thoughtful courage. I really think that's not something that we've articulated well. And I think that's really something that we should be articulating a lot more because I do appreciate that comment. I think it's quite strong and quite impactful. So recognition isn't just a moment, it's really something that we built into our culture. And what role do allies and leaders play in making that real at Coupa? How do you see that happening?
Yeah, what role do leaders and allies not play? I mean, they play such important roles, right? I think leaders shape culture through what they notice and celebrate. Recognition becomes part of a culture when leaders are intentional about what they highlight and celebrate, right? Contributions, especially that sometimes will go otherwise unseen. And I think allies, on the other hand, they play just as an important of a role by amplifying ideas, by sharing credit, and by creating space for others to participate and contribute.
And just as a follow up to that one, how does empowering women and recognizing unsung impact really help Coupa shape what's next?
I think we all know, right, that organizations do their best when they tap into just the full range of perspectives that people bring, and I think empowering women helps ensure that we're not just, that we're not overlooking talent, we're not overlooking leadership potential, we're not overlooking innovation that could help shape the future of a company. I think when people see that their contributions are valued, whether they're leading a major initiative or they're quietly helping others succeed, it just creates a stronger sense of ownership and connection to that company. And I think it's that kind of culture, a culture that doesn't just recognize the past or the present, but honestly just helps build the path for what comes next.
Thank you so much for that. And I think, so here's what I'm taking away from this conversation. I think in this edition of Shaping What's Next, the Women's History Month edition, number one, impact isn't always visible. I think it really isn't, but it's definitely always foundational to leadership happens at every level, which I think is really important. And I think we should really stress that. Number three, recognition is how culture becomes real. And I think that was a really great point. Four, allyships accelerates progress. And I think most importantly is the fifth one, that when people grow, Coupa grows. Cindy, thank you so much for your leadership and for sharing your story. And to everyone watching, please take a moment this month just to recognize an unsung Herian, whether that's at work or whether that's privately. Please share your own stories. Please help us continue leading that change together.
Thank you, Carrie.
No worries. So thanks for joining us today again. And don't worry, Lenny's going to be back next time to learn more about our employee resource groups here at Coupa. Please visit curious.coupa.com and do join our talent community. Thank you so much.